Well, good morning and welcome to the Mission Boards channel. It's great to have you along for the ride. I'm going to do something just a little bit different today. McDonald and Owen is a local company that does kiln drying and processing of hardwoods, and they donate a lot of lumber to Mission Boards. And one of the things that I try to do to help them out is to make a wooden part that they use in their rip saw. And these only last for a few days, so they constantly need new parts. But I'll show you what that looks like here, the part that we need to make today. So this is the sample that I keep on hand, and I make all the ones from it. But it's really just, this is a piece of maple, and I don't know how well the camera picks this up, but it has a particular bevel and notch on the end, and it has to be this exact size. So I'm going to make some of these for McDonald and Owen this morning, and we'll see how this goes. So the first thing I need to do is just find some lumber that we can make this out of. They seem to work best if they're made of either maple, oak, one of those two hardwoods seem to work the best. We made some one time out of poplar, and it just wasn't stiff enough or strong enough to last very long. So I'm going to look through the pile here and see what oak I can find that's wide enough. So I've gone ahead and pulled out a stack of boards that I think will work to make more of these. I like to make about 25 at a time. I think the machine holds five of those at once, and so that would give them 5 different times they can rotate through what I make today. So this is the pile. It's maple or oak, and I'm gonna as the first step, I'm gonna plane it down so that it's the same thickness as our sample size is here. So we'll do that now. So as with most things, this is a multi-step process, and what I'm going to do next is to joint one edge of these boards. I need one edge to be very straight and flat, so that when we take it over to the miter station next and cut it to length, we have one flat, straight side to register against the fence. So that all happens here at the joiner, and that's what we're going to be doing next. what I want to do now is to bring the boards over here to the miter saw and to cut them to length. And so what I'll typically do is cut one end first just to make sure it's square. Put the edge that I just jointed that I know is flat and straight, put it up against the fence, cut the right side, and then I'm going to push it over to a stop block that I'm going to install. And it's going to constantly produce for me the right length when I make the cut on the left end. So I'll show you how that happens here. First I'm going to set up this sample. The sample is really critical to getting this right. And I don't know if you can see that good, but just going to use the saw itself, bring the blade down. Then I use wooden stop blocks, but I try to use wooden stop blocks that I've notched the corner out of, because when you cut, inevitably you're going to get some sawdust blow over there. And if this is a straight cut and not a notch cut, you're going to end up with a pile of sawdust that's going to make the board you're trying to cut shorter and shorter. But if you put a little notch in there, it gives a place for the sawdust to go. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to make a test cut here. Let's see how we're actually doing with this. Reposition the camera. Feels pretty good. It's maybe just a hair short. I'm going to tap it back just a bit. Try the next one out and see if it Well, it seems like everything that you do in life really has some ups and downs. There's some parts of it that you like and some parts that you don't like. And now I'm going to share with you one of the things that I really hate about woodworking. So much of it I like and enjoy. But emptying the dust collector is one of my least favorite things. And what I'm going to do next is, because it's full, and if I keep going, it's going to jam the machine up. So I'm going to take some time here just to empty the dust collector. We have a Grizzly dust collector. It's a 5 horsepower. It does an absolutely tremendous job of sucking up shavings and cuttings and all those things, and I'd hate to be in a shop without it. I don't think you could run a 5 horsepower planer without big dust collection. But anyways, it needs emptied pretty often, and that's the task that we're going to complete here right now. So the barrel's been emptied, and we can move on to the next part of the dust collector process. But the other thing that I need to do is to run the brush down through. There's a brush built inside these filters, and it's It's capable of moving upside down, brushing off the inside of the filters. All the extremely fine particles end up in these bags at the bottom. So every once in a while I have to empty those, but right now they look like they're in pretty good shape. But I'm going to run these brushes up and down and just want you to see what that looks like. Again, this is one of my most hated jobs, but somebody has to do it, and it's usually me. So that's it. Most of the shavings that end up in here really come from the planer. The planer produces a whole lot of shavings very fast. And if you're planing, 8 foot by 12 inch wide boards, you can maybe plane 15 or 20 of those before you fill this up, depending on how much material you're taking off. So it's a great dust collector. I enjoy it. Maybe we'll make a video just about dust collection here one of these days. But again, my least favorite job's emptying that thing, and we just accomplished it. So the next step in the process of making the ripsaw parts is actually going to be to take them over to the table saw and size them to width. And so we have them cut to length. Got a whole big stack of blanks here cut to length. But what I want to do next at this point is to cut them to width. And so I'll show you how that is set up and how we do it. So I'm just going to use the sample. Again, the sample's critical. One through there, give it just a hair. We'll run one through there, and I'll double check it on the sample to make sure we're good on width. Dust collection time. Our width is good, so we're going to go ahead and cut all these. I try to stack them up on the saw in the way that I'm going to cut them so they don't get confused. One side of these has already been jointed and is straight, and that's on the right side, so I try to stack them that way so that when I pull them over and start cutting them, I just can keep them going in the same direction. So there are two steps basically left in this process. If you can see on the sample board here, we have to cut this bevel. So the board has a bevel here, and we have to cut that bevel. And then the final step will be to cut this little notch that hopefully you can see on camera. So the bevel's next. And this really is the most risky thing that I do as far as making these. I have to remove the guard because of the beveled angle, and so I'm going to spin this overhead dust collector guard out of the way, and then I have a jig that I'm going to put on the side of the rip fence that creates this bevel for me. So that's what we're going to do next. So I hope you can see that, but this is just an angled jig that sits on top of the rip fence. And then I'll use the sample to get the distance just right. So as usual, I'm going to turn the dust collector on. We're going to cut a sample, see how it does compared to that. And we'll go from there. If we have to make another adjustment, we'll do that. So I now have this big beautiful stack of ripsaw parts that have a bevel on both ends. And the only thing really left to do is to clean up the saw and cut that little notch on the ends. And we'll be doing that next here. I'll show you how that happens. So for this next notch that we're going to cut on the ends of the boards, we're going to have to remove the riving knife. So the saw that I have is an old Grizzly. I've had it for probably at least 20 years. It'll take up to a 12-inch blade. It has a 5-horsepower motor. It's been an absolutely wonderful saw. But the technology in the saw is older. It came with a splitter that held the blade guard. But nowadays, most saws have riving knives. And so I had a machinist make me a little riving knife, and I used that. It's helped prevent injuries and kickbacks, and the riving knife is important and it works well. But with my saw, the riving knife doesn't go up and down with the blade. So if I'm gonna cut something that's not a through cut, I have to actually take the riving knife off. So that's what I'm gonna do now. We're going to lower the blade. We're going to use the sample to set up the height. And as usual, we're going to turn the dust collector on and make a first cut and see how that matches up with the sample and make adjustments from there. So today we made a stop at McDonald and Owen Lumber in Brookville, Pennsylvania. And I just wanted to come here to get some footage and show you the little wooden pieces that we make for the rip saw. And so you'll get to see some footage of the rip saw and what those little wooden pieces do. They actually help hold the board down as it rolls through the machine. And the cutting head comes down through the wooden part. So it stabilizes the board, it keeps it flat. And I'm happy to help them out. These are good guys who give us a lot of lumber. So McDonald and Owen Lumber, Brookville, Pennsylvania.
Time to break apart. The blades just cut right down through. Yeah, right onto it. Now this to hold the saw level, so it won't have, if the board goes through, it's so smooth to go to the saw. We don't have that, and we're getting a lot of places. If the board not always straight, it's all like buckets we're going flat. Yeah. That hold is flat.
So that's going to wrap up this video. I've produced, I think, 29 different pieces. See them all there that have all the right bevel, all the right notch. And so there's 5 sets of 5 plus 4 extras if there's a problem with any of them. So that's how we make parts, wooden parts for a rip saw. If you have any interest in this and in our channel, I'd ask you to hit the like button and subscribe. Thanks for watching.